Hello friends, and I'd like to welcome you back to Faraway Places at Your Fingertips, November 2020. This month we're going to be visiting the countries of Great Britain, and I'm so excited to share what I've learned with you today. As we're moving to the next slide, if you came in to pick up your bingo cards, this would be a great time to get your cards out. Listen carefully and watch the slides. You should see or hear every single word on your card. You can play together during the program, or you can play later with families and friends. I'm so excited that we get to share this time with you. Now, it's time to get to our map. So friends, we always talk about our continents. We have North America, South America, Europe, Africa, Asia, and Oceania way down here. We live in North America. We always say we live right here at the bottom of this lake, Lake Michigan at the S. Now when we're traveling to Great Britain, we're going to cross the North Atlantic Ocean and land in these islands right here. The British Isles are part of Europe, but they're set off of the coast, and they're islands of themselves in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. You've got the North Sea, you've got the English Channel, and the Irish Sea between Great Britain and Ireland. Now a little bit more up close, let's take a look at what we're looking at. So the United Kingdom, well first of all let's start with the British Isles. The British Isles are Ireland and Northern Ireland, England, Scotland, and Wales all together. They're part of Europe, but separated. Then you come over here to the United Kingdom, and you have England, Scotland, and Wales, and Northern Ireland is actually part of that country as well. Today, we're actually talking about Great Britain, which is just this island right here. We're not talking about this island, so we have England, Scotland, and Wales as the area known as Great Britain. Breaking it down into counties, you will see in the country of England, they have a capital, London, and here's how they break down in counties. Up to the north is Scotland. Their capital is Edinburgh. You're going to look at it and you're going to think it says Edinburgh, but you actually need to pronounce that Edinburgh. And then way in this corner is Wales. The capital of Wales is Cardiff. So you can see the big picture right here and then broken down into countries. We're going to start with England. England's capital, as we said, is London. It's a big mix of modern and historical buildings and cities. England's been around for a really long time, and you'll find lots of great information when you're there. We have Big Ben, we have the London Eye, and then here through London goes the River Thames. So there's lots of bridges. This particular bridge, I believe it's the Tower Bridge, but you might want to look that up because you know you have to check me out, right? You do know that. England is a constitutional monarchy with the monarch, Queen Elizabeth, and her husband, Prince Philip, who live in Buckingham Palace. But they're just figureheads. The actual parliament is headed, so they're a constitutional monarchy. The parliament is headed by the prime minister. Our current prime minister is Boris Johnson. He does not have a deputy prime minister or a vice prime minister, so he needs to stay well and healthy and be able to do his job. There's no one to step in. He is appointed by the Queen, and he or she, depending on who it is at the time, are in for the duration at Her Majesty's pleasure. Her Majesty would work with Parliament to decide if it's time for a change. If you are the Prime Minister, you live at 10 Downing Street. If you're the President of the U.S., you live at the White House. If you're Prime Minister, you live at 10 Downing Street in Westminster. The money is pounds sterling, and they have 3 branches of government, exactly like we do. They have the governance, or we would call them the Senate. They have the legislative, and they have the judiciary. So very much like our government. As far as Scotland and Wales are concerned, there's some governance from England, but also they do make some of their own decisions and their own rules. They have their own set of ministers. The first minister of Scotland currently is Nicola Sturgeon, and this is her team, and they're out of this area. Remember I said the capital was Edinburgh. Again, another mixture of the past and the present coming together. And then you have Wales. In Wales, the capital is Cardiff. It's a coastal city. Their first minister right now is Mark Drakeford, and this is their ministry team, and these are some of their offices where their government does their work. Now, obviously, in England, Scotland, and Wales, they mainly speak English, but their English might look or sound just a little different than some of ours. So we're just going to have some fun with language. If you were looking for the garbage or the garbage can, you would say rubbish or rubbish bin. If you were looking for some cookies, you would actually ask for a biscuit. Now, in my opinion, biscuits are not sweet, but biscuits are their sweet cookies. If you were going to pick up some gasoline, you might call it petrol. If you were going to drive a truck, you might call it a lorry. If you were changing the baby's diaper, you're going to call it a nappy. And if you were going to the restroom, you might say, hey, I'm going to the loo. Well, some fun facts about Great Britain. In 1863, the London Underground, known as the Tube, became the first subway system in the entire world. The Tube currently is in place, and it runs people back and forth underground so you can get where you're going quickly. And here is some of the routes that it goes and some of the trains. Windsor Castle is the oldest royal residence in the world, still occupied by a royal family. Bagpipes were introduced to Scotland from Ireland. Scotland has one of the highest percentages of people with red hair in the whole world. Where do you think that? Any of you out there have red hair? You may have some Scottish background in you. England helped develop some of the most favorite sports in the world: soccer, boxing, rugby, tennis. And it'd be interesting to know that the United Kingdom has no written constitution. Taking a look at England itself, you're going to see London with the modern mixed with the ancient city. You'll have Big Ben here, and then you'll have some of the modern skyscrapers in the back. You can see this drawbridge up because this is the river we talked about it, the River Thames. Here is some of the smaller villages and these cottages. That's what a small village might look like. This is a coastal village. Remember, it's an island, so there's a lot of coast. There are a lot of coastal villages. It's really beautiful. Some places a lot of people like to vacation. One place in particular, the White Cliffs of Dover. So this is on the coast, and these are beautiful white cliffs that are kind of rare and not seen in a lot of different places. And then you have the moors. You have the countryside where the farming and such takes place. Heading off. The next slide, we're going to talk about the Eurotunnel. I'm so excited to talk to you about the Eurotunnel. Years and years ago, way back in the 1800s, England's over here, there's the English Channel, and France and the rest of Europe is over here. They've been looking for a quick way to get across for years and years and years. They go by boat, naturally, but wouldn't it be nice to have a tunnel underground? Well, over years and years of talking about it and thinking about it, finally, in 1989, they started working on channeling through. Now you can see right here, through the rock, the chalk, the marl, the clay. They had to work with the rock that they were dealing with to end up right over here in France. It's a little over 30 miles. It takes a little over 30 minutes. And just so some fun facts about the channel is this 31 miles is the longest underground tunnel, under the water tunnel in the world. There's lots of other longer tunnels, but this has the longest underground. You don't go by car, you don't walk through, you ride a train through, and here's someone putting their car on the train. You can stay in your car, or you can get out and walk around. Freight trains go through automatically by themselves, but other box like an Amazon truck or something, that's going to get on here to go through. Or you could ride through. You could sit in a passenger car and ride through without having your own vehicle. A trip through the past. As early as 3000 BC, there's evidence that people were living in the land that is now Great Britain. AD 43, the Romans invaded. 1066, William the Conqueror defeated. 1215, King John was the king at the time, and he signs a very important document called the Magna Carta. We'll talk about that shortly. In 1348, the Bubonic Plague, which races through England. They also call it the Black Death. It reaches England and it kills over half the population through the time there. So it was a very scary time. Moving forward, 1509, Henry VIII, 1649 to 1660, the monarchy was overthrown, but on to 1660, the monarchy came back. In 1866, there was a big fire in London. I know you've heard about the Chicago fire. It kind of looks, the pictures look a lot like that. In 1776, the American colonies gained their independence. We should know that from history class, right? And 1833, the Slavery Abolition Act makes owning slaves illegal through the British Empire, which is a great thing. It took us a little longer. We were in the 1864, I think. So we were about 31 years after to abolish slavery. They abolished slavery in 1833. 1947, we talked about India and Pakistan last year. They became independent. And then in 2015, kind of a fun fact, Queen Elizabeth became the longest reigning monarch. The British monarch, she surpassed any of her former predecessors. And in 2016 to 2020, there was a national vote for the British people to separate from the European Union. You've probably heard on the news Brexit, and that's what that's about. That's very complicated, and I would encourage you to look it up if you were interested. We talked a little bit about the Magna Carta. In 1215, King John was not very popular. People did not like him at all. He had a very bad reputation. And in order to try to rebuild his reputation with the people of England, he decided to write this document. And there's a lot to this document, but what mainly it says is that no one is above the law. So the king is subject to the law just like the people. And the king can't decide just to throw someone in jail. The people there have to be laws. And then if someone breaks the laws, they have to have a jury and they have to be proven that they did something wrong before they can be incarcerated. So the big statement is, no free man shall be seized, imprisoned, stripped of his rights or possessions, outlawed, exiled, nor will he proceed with force against him, except by the lawful judgment of his equal or by the law of the land. To no one will we sell, to no one deny or delay rights for justice. So that's like a jury of your peers. The laws are set and the rules are the same for everybody. If you go back in time, we remember that in Spain and France and Italy, they sent out a lot of people to explore. They sent out explorers. Great Britain did the same thing, and over time they entered and conquered the 13 colonies in North America and Canada, a few small places in South America, South Africa, and even Central Africa, India, Australia, and a lot of the islands over in the South Pacific. Well, over time, a lot of the areas, remember 1776, we gained our independence. Over time, a lot of the countries were gaining their independence. Australia is still, for a time, part of Britain and Canada. But as of today, Australia, Canada, in South America, in India, they have all gained their independence. These are the few islands left that are under British rule. And then, of course, remember last year, we talked about Antarctica. They do have a section of Antarctica where they have their scientists working. No one owns Antarctica, but the British have their small piece. A real quick talk about Greenwich Mean Time. Because the Earth isn't 100% round, it isn't a perfect sphere. If we went by the sun, time would change a little bit every day, and that would get super complicated. So at the Royal Observatory in Greenwich, we have a clock that sets the time for everywhere in the world, and then just each time zone from there is set based on Greenwich Mean Time. Can you say that with me? Greenwich Mean Time. So Greenwich Mean Time is all of England. We are in Central Standard Time in the United States. So let's just play a game. If it was noon in England, what time would it be here? 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. It would be 6 a.m. in Bolingbrook. So something to remember, you'll hear Greenwich Mean Time from time to time, and that just means the official clock for the world. All right, friends, let's talk a little bit about Queen Elizabeth. Born April 21st, 1926, to the Duke and Duchess of York, who later became King George VI and Queen Elizabeth, her mother, the Queen Mother. She was born at 17 Burton Street in Mayfair. Currently, that restaurant is called Hakkasan, and it's a Cantonese restaurant. But if you wanted some Cantonese, you went over there and you went to this restaurant, you could say to yourself, I'm sitting where Queen Elizabeth was born. Now, she was crowned queen June 2nd, 1953, to a TV crowd of about 20 million folks. She's the longest reigning monarch, even over Queen Victoria. And she has been served by 14 prime ministers, Winston Churchill, Margaret Thatcher, and currently, of course, we said Boris Johnson. She has lots of hobbies like riding horses, pigeon racing. She loves soccer. But she also owns an elephant, 2 giant turtles, a jaguar, and a pair of sloths. They were presents from another country. Those animals get to live at the London Zoo, and she can visit them anytime she wants to. Who's ever heard of King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table? That makes for some great reading. And we get excited when we hear about a knight. We might think of knights in shining armor. Well, the Queen is still in the business of knighting people. You get knighted as an award of intelligence. The award's intelligence service summarizes the high honor. A knighthood and the female equivalent, a damehood, is a award given to an individual for a major long-term contribution in an activity, usually at a national or international level. So, here is a picture of Queen Elizabeth knighting someone right here, and then you get your pendant, and it is very special. And if you are male, your Mr. is turned into Sir, and if you were female, Mrs. or Miss would be turned into Dame. So you would be Sir, whomever your name is. So it's kind of a fun thing that they still do even today. Friends, some of our greatest literary figures have come from Great Britain. We're going to go in a circle and meet some of them right now and see where they lived. William Shakespeare lived in Stratford-upon-Avon. Here's Tolkien. Lewis Carroll, do you guys know what he wrote? Alice in Wonderland, right? Do you see Alice back here? Charles Dickens, who wrote The Tale of Two Cities and so many other wonderful books. C.S. Lewis, who wrote The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and in his town, here's a statue of a wardrobe, and here he is trying to open the door. We've got Robert Louis Stevenson, who wrote Treasure Island, a great adventure story. Roald Dahl, the BFG, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, so many wonderful things. Jane Austen, probably one of your mom's favorite authors, Pride and Prejudice, Emma, lots of good books have come from Jane Austen. But my personal favorite, and I want to tell you a little bit about Beatrix Potter. Beatrix Potter lived in this house. When she was a little girl, she used to look out the windows and she would draw pictures of little rodents all the time. That's where Peter Rabbit came from. If something died on her property, she would put the bones back together so that when she drew a picture of it, she even got the bone structures and the muscles just right. And she just loved to draw. And she really wasn't doing anything with that, and she had never really written a story. Well, she had a dear friend whose son got sick. And she wanted to do something to make him feel better. So she took one of her cute rabbit pictures and just jotted down this really quick story about a rabbit named Peter who went into Mr. McGregor's garden and got his button stuck. We know that as the tale of Peter Rabbit. The tale of Peter Rabbit started out as a simple little story to help a friend and became the favorite worldwide for many, many years to come. You can visit her property. She gave it all to the country of England, so it's a park, and you can visit it if you go there. A little bit about England. I'm sure you've heard of a place called Stonehenge. Been around for a long time. A lot of mystery surrounding it. We do know that as early as 1573, there were drawings of it that looks just like it looks today. So it's been around, and people do like to go visit it. There's lots of sports. There's Big Ben that we talked about before, and the Parliament buildings, and Westminster Abbey. You've got the red double-decker bus. You got the London Eye. Dairy farming is huge for the economy, a big deal for the economy in England. And something to celebrate this month in November, they celebrate Guy Fawkes Day. We don't celebrate that. He didn't do anything here. But on the 5th of November, a long time ago, somebody was planning something dark and dastardly. Fortunately, people caught on and they foiled the plot. But in the meantime, every 5th of November, they have fireworks, people dress up in costumes, and here is the poem. Remember, remember, the 5th of November, the gunpowder treason and plot. I see no reason why gunpowder treason should ever be forgot. Guy Fawkes, 'twas his intent to blow up king and parliament. 70 barrels were laid below to prove old England's overthrow. But God's mercy, he was catched with a dark lantern and a lighted match. Holler, boys, let the bells ring. Holler, boys, God save that king. So it's kind of funny now. It wouldn't have been funny if it had happened. But November 5th, Guy Fawkes Day. If you were to travel up north and go to Scotland, you might visit the Loch Ness. And you might hear lots of stories about the Loch Ness monster. I'm going to leave it up to you to know whether it was real, or to decide whether it was real, or if it was just pretend. But there have been legends of the Loch Ness monster stories around forever. We have lots of books here in the library about them too. People enjoy curling, which is a sport on ice. There's lots and lots of castles throughout Scotland. Here is our friend wearing a kilt and playing the bagpipes. If you live in the mountainy area of Scotland, you're called a Highlander. And if you live in the lower area, you are called a Lowlander. No big, it's just a distinction from where you live. Here's a bit of Wales. You have your coastal towns. You have your national parks. In 2016, it's kind of fun to know that sheep outnumbered people 3-1. I'm not sure today what that number is, but that's pretty fun. More sheep than people by 3 times. So like the cows and dairy industry in England, Wales relies heavily on their wool. One really fun thing, Opha's deck. It's a linear earthwork like a little ditch built that follows the border between Wales and England. And a lot of people, nobody knows when it was made or why it was made, but right now it's a place where somebody might just decide to take a hike and walk that 175 miles or somewhere close to it, walk the length of the border of England and Wales. Well, that seems like a long way to me, but it's just a really interesting, and you can see England on one side and Wales on the other and enjoy a journey across the land. All right, friends, it's time to bring in Miss Debbie to tell us about some great books that come from England.
Thanks, Miss Kathy. Okay, kids. This month I couldn't decide on one book because Great Britain just has such an incredible history, as Miss Kathy pointed out. It was just really hard for us to even focus on certain things. So, real quick, I just wanted to show you some different categories. There's picture books about Great Britain that are great. This one is about Winston Churchill, one of the great prime ministers of all time. This is one of the great explorers, Captain Cook. Again, another great series there. Queen Elizabeth, you can research all the monarch and all the different kings and queens that have ruled Great Britain. And then this is a great series that we have. We have a special section in the library, all the who is and who was is books, and different places too. And it's just a great chapter book that just gives you some really good information in a very easy to understand way. So I would recommend that section of our children's department too, okay? So, next up, my favorite part, the craft part. Our crafting this month is string art, and we're going to try to do our own version of the London Eye. London Eye, or the Millennium Wheel, is a cantilever observation wheel. Think of the thing that's at Navy Pier, something similar to that. And it's on the bank of the River Thames in London. And it's one of the most popular tourist attractions in London. So why don't you meet me over at the craft table, and we will get started. So this is my version of the London Eye. So when you come to the library, kids, you're going to get a kit that has the instructions in it. You're going to get this piece of foam and the template. I call this bike part the template. And it's stuck with all these little things that I call brads, okay? And you're going to get your sign and your string. And this is called embroidery floss. I don't know if you guys have done much with embroidery floss, but I'm going to give you a whole spool of it because I don't know how much wrapping around you're going to want to do. So just be careful that when you start it, you find the right place to start it, because if you do, it comes out really nice and easy, and if you don't, it's going to be kind of a bother. So this is the important part with this, is to make sure you find out where the floss gets started. So I am going to come over to this one, and our first step is going to be to tie our floss onto the center of our Ferris wheel. Okay, I'm going to try to turn it around this way so you can see. Now you see we have the spokes of the Ferris wheel. Those are these lines here. And that's where you need to start. And always go toward the bottom first, because we're going to end up at the bottom, right? So always work toward the bottom when you start your next thing. So you're going to wrap it around that one, and you're going to wrap it around this one. And then you're going to wrap it around that one again, and wrap it around that one again, and come up to the top. And you're going to keep doing that. And I'm going to pause this and then I'm going to finish this part, and we'll be back, okay? Okay, so like I said, this one's going to take you a little while, so that's why. See how I got all my spokes done first? Okay, so now I'm going to go down one of these spokes, and I'm going to do the inner circle of the Ferris wheel. Okay, and this is going to be really fun because you just go up around that one, and up around that one, and you just keep going around that one, and going around that one, and that one. And I'm going to take a little break and finish this part up now, okay? Okay, kids, we're back. So I've gone around all the inner circle brads, and I'm just ready to do my last one, coming around, and then I'm going to go down that same spoke onto the outer ring of the Ferris wheel. And I'm going to go around that one, and around the next one, and around the next one, and around the next one, and I'll see you in a minute. Okay, so we're back again, and you see I've got around all the outer rings of the brads, and I'm just coming up to my last one, and I'm bringing that around. Now I have my whole outer ring done, right? Okay, so now what do we have left? We have our base, right? So we're going to come down to the base, and we're going to go up to make that nice line like that. And then the rest you can pretty much do however you want. I'm coming around that one, and coming around again, and then I'm going to come over to this one. What do you think would be better? I think maybe to go over there, huh? And then come back. Sometimes it gets a little hung up. Miss Debbie's doing it off the cardboard, so it's a little bit tougher for me, okay? So now I've got that whole base done, right? And then, oh, wait a minute, I forgot a spot, didn't I? Let's do that. And you can go around these brads as many times as you want. I really don't care. It's up to you guys, how much time you want to spend. But this is kind of the minimum required by law kind of thing going on here. So then you do our last one here. And you come down here. And then that last one you want to ring it around a few times like that. And push that brad down. You'll see on the back that these are very tightly done there. And we're going to snip that. And you're going to tie your knot there. I'm going to take a break while I do that. So like I said, you just make your little knot there. And now, this is kind of the fun part. You get to rip and you get to cut. And the thing is, you don't have to worry too much. The thing is, so some of these brads are down tight, so sometimes you're going to need your scissors. And just don't cut your string because that's going to really make you mad, okay? So we're going to tear all the paper off. I'm just going to show you a little bit of this. See how you have to get down in there? And once you get into this middle part, you might have to use your scissors to get it started, okay? But again, be careful not to cut your string. Okay, so I'm going to take a break and get the rest of this paper off, and I'll be right back. Okay, so you see all the little pieces of paper I ended up with? So just do your ripping and your careful cutting, and you'll end up with your Ferris wheel, the London Eye, okay? So if you don't want to name it the London Eye, that's fine. You can make your own name on the back of this plaque. I made you a little plaque that had the London Eye on it. And I gave you my favorite glue dots. You know, you're probably getting pretty good with those by now. So there's 4 of them here. Put one here, here, and here. And stuff and glue it on down. And then our last step, and again, this is optional. You tie one end of your ribbon onto that end. And the other one onto this end, and you make a little hanger. And if you just want to prop it up someplace, that's fine too, it's up to you. So you just tie it onto the back of those 2 brads. And there we go. Look at my little paper, it just wants to go everywhere, doesn't it? So there. So I have them in 3 different colors. I've got red and blue and black, and the choice of string is going to be pretty much potluck and stuff, so I hope you enjoy doing it. You'll take a little time and just enjoy it, kids. Okay, so I'm going to throw it back to Miss Kathy. I hope you enjoyed the craft, and she'll tell you a little bit more about next. Oh, actually, we're taking a break, so she'll explain that to you next.
Well, friends, I hope you enjoyed your craft making the London Eye with string art. It's so pretty. If you made it and you want to bring it in and show us, I would love to see and celebrate what you've done. Now, as you know, we typically take off December. It's holiday time and people are getting ready for family and festivities. So we're not going to see you again until January 2021. Oh my goodness. So right now I'd like to wish you a happy holiday, a happy new year, and say can't wait to visit Ethiopia. That's on the continent of where? Africa. We're going to visit Ethiopia in January. Have a safe and happy holidays. Love you. Come in and see us, and we'll see you real soon. Take care.